You cannot be the definite source of income for people that maybe should be finding a way to earn outside of you. You need to understand the consequences of your action. And like, how is me rescuing them actually of disadvantage to them? Welcome to the Money Fit MD show. I'm Dr. Latifat, the founder of Money Fit MD. We want to change the narrative where women physicians use. My job is to let you know that's gonna be. I have to surround myself with people that are doing crazy things. Many first generation wealth builders struggle with their finances. And it's not just about like how much you're earning or whatnot, but it's the struggle that may be unique to this population. And I'm going to talk about that in this episode because it's so important for us to make sure that we're not limiting ourselves, because that's how we're going to burn out faster. That's how we're going to burn out harder. And that's how we're going to continue to allow things like disparities exist when it comes to our wealth building. Welcome, guys. I'm Dr. Latifat. I hope you're doing fantastic. I'm so excited to see you guys. Regardless of when you listen to this episode, I'm so honored that you are tuning in here. I'm so grateful that of all the things you could be hearing in your ears, all the people you could be listening to, you're choosing to listen to us. It truly is an honor to hang out with you, spend time with you. And my hope is that at the end of this episode, you're going to be able to take one or two things away, apply them so that your finances can start to move and grow. So I am recording this after a recent trip that I just took. I had the pleasure of, well, it's kind of a crazy trip a little bit, but I had a speaking engagement in Rochester, Minnesota. Big shout out to the Black Swan team. It was an amazing conference, real estate, real life. I got to speak about abundance mindset and abundance in general. And it was such a great topic that I think I'm actually going to do another episode and just like share some takeaway points with you guys, because it was such a great conversation to have with the room. And then I literally I spoke slash coached there, and then headed over to Monterey, California, where I got the opportunity to speak to a room of physicians, men and women physicians from Kaiser Permanente. And this was part of a wellness retreat, and I got to talk about financial wellness. And guys, I have to be honest, it was so good. This was like workshop style. I think there were about 25 or so people in the room, something around that number. And it was just so powerful. And I will be honest, we were supposed to talk for 2 hours. At almost 2 hours, I was like, how many minutes we got left? They're like, keep going. So it ended up being almost 3 hours, but it was such a game changer. I got to speak with the people, just let people get the beliefs that they have that's standing in their way right out of their head in the room. It was so powerful. And this is, I mean, I'm recording this now the week of our own in-person event, Walk You Life, and I am so, so excited. I cannot wait to be in the room with those of you guys that are going to be there. It's going to be life-changing, transformational, because that's the goal. The goal is for us to have this time together where there is acceleration really in your growth, because we're in the room together. I can push a little bit more. I can sense a little bit more. We're going to have potent speakers. And guys, I'm so super duper excited. I do have to say though that the workshop that I did got me thinking that, it may be something interesting to try out and see if how you guys feel really about potentially doing some workshops in person in future, maybe next year. I think it may be fun to do like small workshops where we just spend like 3 hours together, 4 hours together. You can come from out of state, wherever you are, and this would just be like select group of people, select women physicians. And I think it may be something that I want to test out because I really, really enjoyed the workshop today. Okay. So, anyways, back to the conversation for today. So, part of what I'm talking about is stuff that I coach women about, but also when I'm in a room of minorities, people that are men or women, really, that may be first generation wealth builders primarily, some of this stuff actually starts to come out. Okay. And today on this episode, I want to talk about three of them that have nothing to do with your own individual finances directly. You'll get it. So, number one thing that I want to talk about is the expectations that family members may have on you and its potential negative consequences on your financial growth. I'm not talking about this from a judgmental place at all. Y'all know that's not my MO. But I will say that when I started my financial journey, one of the things that I love doing is giving. I love giving. And I remember when I started, I would give and I would not even invest in like my 401k. So I was earning like six figures, multiple six figures, like most of you guys that are listening to this podcast right now. However, I was not letting my money do anything else except for give. And it felt good. It felt good to be able to give, right? Giving is it's an asset class, in my opinion, right? But what I found is that there are there are external pressure from especially first generational wealth builders when it comes to giving, especially giving to family. I think that it's great to give to family, but when the expectation, though, is that day in, day out, you're giving to family, especially people that are not looking to necessarily do the work of improving their circumstances, I want us to start to understand the potential negative consequences of the giving that you may be doing. I've shared in the past where I know people who had gone through struggles, right? They came out of the struggle, they're now successful, and they're looking at the next generation and thinking, I don't want you to go through what I went through. And so they've done the job of like providing to a crazy level to the next generation. And for whatever reason, that next generation is now no longer pulling their weight. Where I've had a woman physician who was in her early 60s, whose kid that was almost 30 is at home. I believe at home, but she was being primarily responsible for this grown adult, not a kid anymore, finances and like their rent, their insurance, and all this other stuff. And this is a physician who, because of her overextending herself, was actually now struggling with living paycheck to paycheck, income to income, because part of her money was going to take care of an adult that should not no longer be dependent on her for finances. Another example of that is where you're helping a family member every single month, you're helping them with their rent, but that's the expectation, is that you help them with their rent. And I want us to start to think about again, and I know I've talked about this before on the podcast, but what are the negative consequences of you rescuing people that maybe need to hit a little bit of rock bottom like you did? Remember when you were hungry, that rock bottomness that you did, that actually helped you develop the grit to be able to create the finances that you have. The data actually is pretty staggering for this. Based on data, about 75% or so of millionaires are first generational wealth builders, and a significant percentage of the wealthy actually lose their wealth by the second generation. And then by the third generation, I think about 90% of them have lost their wealth. So you can see that there's something going on where the people that are the leaders, the first people to find a pattern, a way, are not necessarily helping those around them learn the same principles that actually help them succeed in. And one of the things that I was sharing with a physician earlier today was, when you have a situation where family is expecting you, come rain, come shine, they're all up in your pocket. They're like, well, but you bought this yesterday, but I saw you were traveling last week. And now you say don't have money to give me. The bottom line is, number one, they should not be in your pocket, because that's already boundaries. That's already been compromised, right? And so the question becomes, how do you kindly, and I believe in kindness, unless they are like, we ain't gonna listen to your kindness, then let them go be. Let them go chill in the corner by themselves. But how do you communicate this effectively? And I think part of it is understanding the harm that you are doing. Because many times we think I'm withholding good from someone when actually you are doing them harm by doing. So you need to understand the consequences of your action. And like, how is me rescuing them actually of disadvantage to them? How is me not letting them like figure it out, curate like creatively, or have that grit, or have that desire to not be homeless, right? How can I help you communicate that? And that's what kindness is, right? And one of the things that I suggested was, you can decide what your giving to family budget is for the month. And when you get to that point, you can just say, I've extended my money for the month. I would be happy to help you if I have some more next month, but you cannot be the definite source of income for people that maybe should be finding a way to earn outside of you. right? So you should not be this certain, and this is different if it's an aging parent. This is different if it's a kid that has special needs. There are definitely some extraordinary circumstances, but it cannot be the norm because what is happening is you are overextending yourself, and it's causing you to not have money to invest, which means that now, when over time you're getting closer to opportunities or retirement or whatever it is, now you're stressing out because you did not think that you in future was your responsibility. Okay? So that's number one issue that I wanted to deal with, that first generation wealth builders can go through, that sometimes can be harder for other people. And when I say first generational wealth builders, like, it doesn't matter what your the color of your skin is. You could be white, you could be, brown, you could be whatever color of your skin is. Like, that's not a racial thing. That's not an immigration status thing. That is more like an opportunity thing. So you could be like a white lady, a white duck, who you are the first in your family to grow wealth to this level. Right. And does not mean that your family was lazy. They may just not have had opportunities. Right. Because again, there's so many things, like, part of your success is your hard work, your grit, but there's also part of it that is like timing and luck. Right. I did not put myself in the family that I did. I did not. It was by circumstance. It's how God made it, right? So again, I'm not saying don't give. I want you to give, but this whole idea of overextending yourself to the point where now you don't have the money to invest and grow, that can become a problem. All right. So that's number one, the giving part. People, family members, loved ones be overextending you when it comes to giving. It's hurting you and it's going to burn you out. It burned me out. And people will say things. They'll go, "Oh my goodness, you're changing. You're different. You're no longer like us. You're not like them." That's okay. That's your brain throwing tantrums. You have to be able to withstand that in order for you to get to the other side. And honestly, what I've found to be true is I had to decrease my giving at the beginning in order to be able to grow so that I could then give more. And that's what I've found to be the case. I'm still very intentional about my giving. Thank God I've now worked on my people pleasing. So, there's less of that going on now. And I think that has also helped me be a better manager of my money, but also just being a better steward of not doing harm with my money by giving it to people where I'm removing their desire, that Greek, that home factor that makes them, go find a way to earn money outside of me. That's number one. Okay. Number two challenge or issue that I found with first generation builders is some of the thoughts that we have that actually causes us to over collect cash, over save, under invest. You've heard me talk about on this podcast multiple times that saving and budgeting is not how you get to freedom. Investment is how you get to freedom. And saving, spending plan, those are the means to an end to help you get to the place of being able to invest so that your money can grow. And like I like to tell you guys, when you want to negotiate with a company, if you want to grow in a company, you have to let your goals align with their goals, your mission aligns with their mission so that you speak in the same language. And the same is true when it comes to money. If you want to have more money, you have to align yourself with the things that money wants. And what does money want? Money wants to grow. So when you're investing, you're aligning yourself with the purpose that which money was created, which is growth. And so it's like working with gravity as opposed to opposite gravity. So if you're not putting your money in vehicles that's going to help it grow, you are not obeying the principles of financial growth. And so don't be shocked if your money ain't growing. Don't be acting surprised because you should not be surprised. I should not be surprised, right? It's like a farmer. Imagine a farmer getting to their farm and going, "There are no potatoes here." I don't know what that accent is. Potatoes brought out accents. There are no potatoes here. All right. Sorry, y'all. There are no potatoes here. And they're like, when did you plant potatoes? I didn't plant potatoes. You did not plant potatoes and you expected to see potatoes here? What? Like, when did you plant it? I did not plant it. What did you plant? Broccoli. So why are you expecting potatoes? I don't know. Right? So, but some of the beliefs that we inherit, I just cracked myself up. I don't think I don't know. I'll let y'all decide for yourself. I thought I was funny. Okay, sorry, y'all. Okay, back to our conversation. So back to our conversation though. So the second area that I see a lot of first generational wealth builders struggle with is, especially if there's been insecurity, financial insecurity or lack in the past, there may be a tendency to hoard in money and hoard in cash. And what that may look like is you may have too much emergency funds relative to your needs, relative to the actual truth of your financial circumstances, and relative to how much you invest. What do I mean by that? So, for example, you've heard me say things like if you're earning multiple six figures, seven figures per year, you want your emergency funds to be between 3 to 6 months of how much you would need in liquid accessible cash. Liquid accessible, I shouldn't say cash, liquid accessible currency could be, cash that you have in your savings account. It could be money that's in the money market account. It could be, depending on where you're trying to, what you're putting your, what's it called? It could be a high interest savings account, like depending on where you're trying to hold that emergency fund, but it's something that you want to be able to access within 24 to 48 hours, right? But if you're someone that you are the single family earner, you may want to have slightly more than 3 months, right? Because the real question is if you're trying to find a job or change your source of income, how long would it take you in order to be able to do that? And that should help you decide how much emergency funds you have. So if you're single parent, for example, a single physician, you are like, you're the single source, either single or single family income earner. You may want more in terms of your emergency funds, like up to 6 months. And I'm not going to go into the micro details of how much you should have, again, based on your expenses. And I've done episodes in the past of minimum viable expense, comfortable expense, and then like a bougie amount, right? It can be stepwise where your emergency funds at first may cover your minimum viable, and then the comfortable amount, and then your bougie amount. But the problem exists where your emergency fund is like 12 months of expenses. 12 months of expenses, and you're not financially independent years. 12 yet. 12 months, 24 months, 16 months, 18 months, that starts to get in the line of fear. And many times, what I found with first generation wealth builders is that you have been groomed to believe that that money that's sitting down there is your source of security. And so you're like, okay, there's a lot that's dependent on me. This is my source of security. I have to like have all this cash. But you have to understand that there is opportunity cost to the things that you're doing. When you have your emergency fund that's easily accessible, the benefit of it is it's accessible, but the cost of it is the growth that you're not going to be having as a result of your money not being invested. And when I'm talking about your money not being invested, if you think about the fact that even if your money is in a high interest savings account with an interest rate of say 4%, that's not bad. However, remember that that money is not usually, it's more of like a simple interest as opposed to compounded interest. When you invest in, we're talking about compounding interest, and compounding is like God's gift to man, literally. God is like, I don't want y'all to overwork. Yeah, I know if you're watching me on video, I have my hand like over my head. Like God is like, I don't want y'all to overwork. So I'm gonna create this thing for you called compounding so you don't have to exchange time for money one to one because I got things I want you to do with your time, and I don't want you to worry about money. So your money's going to be growing through compounding interest. It's just the law of the land. I created that. I made it that way. But if you're investing in, if you have so much money that's sitting in your savings account, even though you may be getting some growth, it's usually not like it's usually more of like simple interest as opposed to like compounding interest. Does that make sense? So, because part of this is I want you to grow your finances and I want you to be able to achieve financial liberation as soon as possible. And the fastest way to do it is by investing. I don't recommend investing in like single stocks. I like you to diversify for reasons that is, for lack of a better term, safety, but decreases the chances of you losing all of your money because you're not putting all of your eggs in one basket, right? So that's another thing that I've noticed with a lot of first generation wealth builders is that increased attitude for having more cash than they actually need at the expense of growth, right? It's different if your cash is to deploy to an opportunity that may be coming up. It's different if your kid is about to start college and you're taking the money out of the market so you can have the money easily accessible so that if the market goes nosedive, you're not, losing, you're not being forced to take money out at the bottom. That's different. If you're like, oh, I'm going to buy a property, or I am going to be traveling and I want to have a lot of cash, that's different. That is an intentional move that you're making. I'm talking more about this attitude or propensity to want to over hoard cash. Okay. So that's number two. And then number three part that I want to talk about is the idea of the ceiling when it comes to like your money. So many of you guys may be employed. Some of you guys have your own businesses, whether that is your private practice or other kinds of business. And I want you to understand that when you are a W 2 earner only, if that's your only source of income, there is usually a ceiling on the amount of money that you can earn because it's usually based on salary, right? If you have a business, the business actually, that's why I love businesses, because businesses remove the ceiling of what the maximum you can earn it because then you can now start to use your creativity to decide how much you want to earn. So many of you guys that may be first generation wealth building physicians, the whole idea of like safety and security, sometimes you tend to attach that to your job. And again, there's nothing wrong with it with W2, but I want you to see that you may be putting an artificial ceiling on how much you can earn if you're putting all of your back eggs in the W2 basket. So, what are the things that you can do about that? You can definitely do the things that I've talked about earlier, which is making sure that you're investing so that you can have your W2 and be investing. But I also want to just challenge you guys that are listening right now. If you don't currently own your business, if you don't currently have a business, I want to challenge you and say, are you someone that with some help, with some support, could be someone that actually owns businesses and buys businesses or starts businesses? It's not for everybody for sure, but you probably know if it's for you when you're feeling that internal like pull, internal nudge to like do more, to have more. Like your capacity is, you have a capacity for more. Yes, you may have fear, you may have limiting beliefs, but you have this pull in your heart of like, I know I'm meant for more. That usually is one of the signs that you're getting, like, I'm meant for more, I'm meant to do more. Like, you're like, literally, I was speaking with someone today who has written out so many ideas for businesses, but she's surrounded herself with people that are not living in that world. She surrounded herself with people that are only emphasizing the downside, the limiting beliefs, and are not talking about what the possibility is for her, right? And so for someone like that, my recommendation is to surround herself with people that are doing amazing things, that are doing wild things, people that are living outside of the box, that are not fitting in the box. We offer that inside of the Money School. That may be something you want to consider. If you're interested, you can go to moneyfitmd.com/call and schedule book a call so that we can chat. We can see where you are, what you're trying to do. But keep in mind that that permission to open the ceiling doesn't only affect your income, affects your taxes, affects what you're able to teach your kids, the skill sets that you learn, the mindset up leveling you learn, the capacity building you've learned. I will tell you guys this, as much as I love being a physician, my business has literally changed my life. The same way, like the reason why I started MoneyFit MD was to serve women physicians, to serve humans. But what I did not anticipate was how much it was actually going to help change me. It's challenged me to meet a different version of myself so that the version of me that's raising my kids is different from the version of me that was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And my business has been like literally been that mental gym, that mental weight that has helped me become a different version of myself. So it's not just about the income, it's also the version of myself that I'm becoming. And when you don't challenge yourself in that way, when you're so scared and concerned about like security in the limited frame of mind, you can see how that can actually limit your growth. And one of the things that I like to remind people is this: many times we're influenced by our family, our parents. They've done a lot to get you where you are, they've trained you, they've done all of that stuff. But the bottom line that you have to understand is that many times your parents, they want an outcome for you. They want you to be successful. They want you to not struggle like they did. They want you to have like, they want you to have resources. And many times they will tell you how that they think you will need in order to get to that end point. But now at the level that you're in, it's time for you to take it to the next level. Because what got you here will not get you to the next level. And what got you as a family here is not going to get you to the next level. I like to remind people that I think about generational wealth and generational movement upwards financially as almost like a relay. So they have started where they have started. They have handed you the baton, and now it's up to you to decide if you and your family are going to be part of the almost 80% that lose the money in the first generation, or you're going to be part of the 20% that don't lose the money in the next generation. And the way you do that, it's not just by passing on money to your kids. I have an episodes that I recorded 2 episodes ago. I'm going to make sure we have the link on here so that you can go listen to that one about the things you want to teach your kids when it comes to money, because it's so important. Because if all you do is give them money, you may actually screw them up. If what you do is like parenting from wound, parenting in a way that you're trying to make them avoid all the challenges that you had, you're going to actually mess them up as well, right? And that's not what you want. So I just want you to know that you're doing great. It's not easy because sometimes you're in this sandwich cultural, financial sandwich generation where it's like bringing it from where it's coming from to where it's going. And I know that it's not easy. And again, that's why it's so important that we have conversations like this on the podcast, but also you make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that get it, that understand the cultural nuances, that can coach you and help you really identify how you want to show up so that you can be equipped without burnout so that it can grow wealth in a way that is wholesome. And that's what we've created in the Money School. I hope this has been helpful for you. If it has been, please, would love it if you can share with some of the other people in your life that would benefit from this. My goal over the next couple of years is I want to be able to impact thousands and thousands of women physicians. And you know, the way we're going to do that is through you. You are part of our how. You're part of the people that we really are calling on to help us change the narrative around money for women physicians. You know, I like to remind people that you're in your community for a purpose, right? You've been placed there, you've been planted there for purposes. And part of it is for you to be a conduit of good things to your community. I may never meet your colleagues, I may never meet your friends, but one of the things you can do though is you can share this link to this YouTube or this podcast, whatever platform you're listening from, you can share it with them. So I'm going to challenge you today and say, will you join us as part of our humans, our beautiful humans that are part of this movement to get this message of financial wellness, financial liberation, wholesome wealth to women physicians everywhere. And by the way, if you're a non-physician that's listening to this, I want to just say thank you for riding with us. It's okay if you want to share with those of your own people in your life. And if you have a physician, next time you see your doctors, go, hey, have you heard about this podcast? Or you can just go on Amazon, get a copy of my book, sign it to the best doctor ever, and take it to your doctor at their next appointment. You can even have a book club where you take our book, whether it's Done with Broke or The Power to Choose, and meet up with your girlfriends and start to have conversations about how do we apply this into our lives. And if you want to invite me to be part of this conversations, let me know. I love, doing workshops. Send me an email. You can send my team an email to concierge at moneyfitmd.com. Concierge at moneyfitmd.com. I speak at hospitals. I speak at, you know, organizational level. I've spoken all around the country. I've spoken internationally. I do paid workshops. The goal is we want to get to more women physicians because I just feel this urgency about the fact that it is time for us to break the pattern of unwellness. It's time for us to stop being stuck. It's time for us to stop tiptoeing around money. It is time for you to be the conduit of money that you're made to be. And if you're a woman physician, this is part of your work. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for listening. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye, guys.